Sorry, we got cut off by Facebook. They're not very nice, to say the least. They censor us. So we're back in what the next part of this class, part 2, Be'ezrat Hashem, we continue. So we know that the two daughters of Lot thought that the whole world was destroyed, and they said we have to start the world, and they got their father drunk, and the first older one slept with him the first night, and the second one slept with him the second night, and two nations will come from them, Ammon and Moab. And as we know, Ammon and Moab, from them will come two amazing women, and that's why it says ואת שתי בנותיך הנמצאות, those are the found in the future. נמצאות, they're found. Who are they? As we know, from Moab will come Ruth, right? And from her will come King David, King Solomon, and Mashiach ben David. And from the Ammonites will come Naamah, the wife of King Solomon, and she'll give a birth to Rechavam that will continue the kingship. So after all said and done, we see that Lot and his two daughters provided. Hashem, the Zohar says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu hides Mashiach within the klipa. As we know, we have Mashiach ben David come from Ruth, and we know that Mashiach ben Yosef will come from where? From Osnat and Shechem, from the klipa of Shechem. Only Mashiach ben Yosef can defeat Amalek, and Mashiach ben David can defeat the entire world, the rest. So we see that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, even, first and foremost, we want to understand that where there is a true converts that really want to join the people of Israel, that means their neshama is already high, very elevated neshama. Even though they're goyim now, but they become very, very religious. We know that some of the top rabbanim of Israel, the biggest rabbi in the history of the world, came from goyim. Rabbi Meir Baal HaNes, for an example. Rabbi Akiva, Unkelus, Shmaya V'Aftalion. They all came from different goyim. So continue now. As we know, Abraham, it says now, וישקף על פני סדום ועמורה ועל כל ארץ פני הכיכר, וירא והנה עלה כי TORAH. Abraham realized that everything is destroyed and everything like that. And ויעלות, as we know, now after all said and done, Abraham Avinu is going to a different place, and there is also the story of another king that kidnapping Sarah. And of course, Abraham says to Sarah, please remind them you're my sister, not my wife, so they don't kill me. And of course, Avimelech takes Sarah, and the same amazing outcome comes out, and Abraham again is being prized with a lot of wealth. And because after all said and done, Avimelech realized that it's not really his sister and that's his wife, and he gave her back, and he complains like Pharaoh, what have you done? But in reality, he says, I should have killed you if I knew you were his wife. I would have killed Abraham, but he lied, so he saved his life. So I guess this is what, the outcome. And of course, the blessing that Avimelech had with the entire people of Gerar, that until then nobody had children, the women cannot conceive, and only because Sarah, they had children. And we continue now, as we know, the birth of Yitzchak. So, Vayadonai pakad et Sarah kasher amar, Vayas Adonai leSarah kasher diber, Vatahar vatelet Sarah leAvraham ben, lezekunav lamoed asher diber ito Elohim. So we know HaKadosh Baruch Hu, as we mentioned, when the angel came a year before, they told him, next year, same time, you'll have a child. And that's exactly the same day. Pesach. Yitzchak is born on the 15th of Nisan, 2048 to the Jewish count. And Abraham now and Sarah receiving this amazing baby. And of course, his name was already established up front, so he called him Yitzchak. And Avraham Avinu is doing the first mitzvah. There's Hashem, the whole book of Bereshit, the book of Genesis only had 3 mitzvot. The book of Genesis is a time span of 2,400 years. And the 3 mitzvot are prurvu, meaning get married, have children. The second one is do brit milah. And the third one, don't eat the sciatic nerve, gid hanasheh. And Avraham Avinu is doing the first mitzvah that Hashem told him to do. Of course, Avraham in Gematria is 248. He did actually the 248 mitzvot aseh. He did all the mitzvot. And of course, he kept mitzvot lo ta'aseh. And he is now, as Hashem says to him, you should circumcise your son on the 8th day. As we know, וימול אברהם את יצחק בנו בן 8 ימים, כאשר ציווה אותו אדוני. By the way, the word brit in this parasha appears 13 times, the covenant. And that's why when we do the brit milah, we became one with Hashem. Until the baby is circumcised, is not really Jewish yet. That's why we have to pray this amazing 8 days. We have to pray a lot to the baby's health. Read Tehillim, read the Zohar. There is all kinds of amazing teaching, what in order to sustain the neshama until it becomes Jewish. Because when the Brit Milah is done, there is another neshama comes to the child. Why on the 8th day? Because the 8th day you have to have one Shabbat in your life, right? Ki hi mekor ha'beracha. It's the source of blessings. And of course, Shmona comes the word neshama. You get a new neshama. And when you do the Brit Milah, as we said, we become one with Hashem. Echad is 13 in Gematria, and we have 13 attributes of mercy, and the word Brit Milah appears 13 times in this parasha, to allow for us to be Echad with Hashem. Hashem Echad, right? When we are together with Hashem, then we are protected. People that don't have Brit Milah, Chas v'Chalila, they don't have protection. We know that the Gemara will teach us that why the Ishmaelites, right, has hold in Israel. Why Arabs are in Israel. So as we know, we have a lot of groups that explain to us what the Arabs do and how they lie and everything. There's a great, stand with us groups, that all over the world. I had the pleasure to be on the board of directors there for 4 years. And they do an amazing job. They tell all the lies of the Palestinian and the Arabs and all that. But the Gemara says that because Avraham Avinu circumcised Ishmael, they will have hold on the land of Israel for the longest. Why? Because Ishmael was circumcised when he was 13. But it was not the same circumcision as Jewish circumcision. The Arab circumcision, until today, by the way, they do sacrifice, is not a Freudian slip, but they also circumcise their children, the boys, when they're 13. But we do it on the 8th day, because that's where really the holy. Something amazing happened on the 8th day, not because it's the 8 days, because the Brit Milah. There is a vitamin K in our body that's very low throughout our life, but only once in our lifetime, it goes above nature. It goes to 110%, and that's on the 8th day. So vitamin K coagulate the blood. It's actually stopped the bleeding. It goes 110% only on the 8th day. So when the Brit is happen, the baby heals fast. And we see the word orla, we remove the orla. What's orla? It means ra-la. It's bad for it. It's bad for the neshama. And we see that they're having ויגדל הילד ויגמל ויעש אברהם משתה ויגמל דהיינו ויוד ג' as we know what's gimel, right, and mal, and he says that he was basically grown up now. ויעש אברהם משתה Bayom he gamel, hey and gimel is 8th, and mal, that is, he was circumcised. And of course, Sarah now realized something. She sees that et ben Hagar mitzrit asher yalda leAvraham etzachek. Ishmael wants to kill Yitzchak. ותאמר לאברהם, גרש האמה הזאת ואת בנה, כי לא יירש את בן האמה הזאת עם בני. Yitzchak. You know, Sarah, by the way, is Sar Hashem. She was much more holier than Avraham Avinu. And she was also a prophet. We know we have 48 prophets, men, and 7 women. Sarah was one of them. And she says to him, I want you to throw them out of the house, because you cannot mix Ishmael with the Jewish people. It's not allowed. From her, we know that we are not allowed to do, even the Torah says, don't make peace with the Arabs, mokesh hilachem. This is a trick. Even though you don't think all of a sudden the Arabs change and they love Israel. They don't care for their own brothers, right? We know what's going on all over the Arab world. Why would they care for you, for Israel? You have Arabs in the Knesset of Israel, terrorists that all day plot how to destroy Israel and vote against Israel. And have Chaz v'Chalila, the Supreme Court of Israel, there's Arabs there, they're all left. Most of them are not Jewish, really, to begin with. And they go against Israel. Sarah says, you're not mixing. Throw Ishmael cannot be with Yitzchak. You cannot be mixing the two. It would ruin my son. You know, when we are mixing with the Goyim, only chaos comes. If you look at the history of the people of Israel, it's only after the Hitbolelut, right? When we mix with the Goyim, we bring chaos upon us. Throughout the history, every time, you know, my dear Rabbi Busso in Israel says, can you imagine if the Nazis, the German, liked us? Hated us? He said, look, they pretended to like us, right? Germany was the most educated country in the world. Most educated country of the time in the world. Became animals. Pere Adam. My rabbi says, look, they loved us and look what they did to us. Could you imagine if they hated us? The Holocaust really is the Gog and Magog that the prophets came about, because they describe everything that describes in Parashat Mishpatim and Parashat Kitavo, all those curses, 157 curses, happened in the Holocaust. Why? Aster astir et panai mehem. Hashem says, when you mix with the Goyim, I will hide my face from you, because you count on them instead of counting on me and the Torah. Sarah here is teaching us this. She says, Garesh ha'ama azot ve'et bena, ki lo yirash ben ha'ama azot im beni, im Yitzchak. You're not allowed to mix in any condition. When we are among, we are affected, right? You're affected by the company you keep. So, of course, he complained, and Hashem says, whatever she says to you, listen to her. Vayashkem Avraham. Avraham comes early in the morning, just like he's going to Vayashkem Avraham baboker. Vayashkem means before the sunrise even. And he gives only bread and water to Hagar and to Ishmael, and he sent them away. Ishmael was sick. Sarah cursed him because he wanted to kill Yitzchak. And Hagar carries, Abraham put Ishmael on her shoulder. She carries him. And she goes after, she walks toward Egypt, right? The Torah says, ותלך ותטע במדבר באר שבע. She wrote TORAH. She doesn't remember. Abraham converted her. Hagar is the word Gerah. But she leaves Hashem again, and she wants to come back to Egypt. And it says, ויכלו המים מן החמד, ותשלך את הילד תחת עץ השיחים. She threw away her son and watched him to die. The Gemara says, she was exactly at the same place that she was once before, after she was mocking Sarah, and Sarah asked Abraham to remove her. She was right at the water well, but she was so blinded by her avodah zarah, she did not realize she has water to her feet. but she put her son to die. Again, the trait of the non-Jews. Who does that? I know myself and any Jew, real Jew, will die for their children and will do anything to save them, not throw them and watch them to die. These are the traits. As we know, she watched, כי אמרה, אל אראה במות הילד, ותשב מנגד, ותישא את קולה ותבך. She left him to die and she cries. And of course, an angel came from her, Shamayim, and tell her, he says, Malach Hagar. So we know that, of course, after all said and done, ויפקח אלוהים את עיניה, ותרד באר המים. דהיינו, everything is under our nose. Don't look too far. What's it mean under our nose? Right? What's under our nose? Our mouth. Your mouth should be doing what Hashem tells you to do. Learn Torah. Speak the word of Hashem. Respect. Everything that Hashem says. V'dibarta bam. Bam, by the way, is Bereshit and Me'ematai. The oral and written Torah. That's the first two words, the first two letters. And we know that Avraham Avinu now is being tested in the most amazing and final test. You know, Avraham Avinu until this moment had 9 tests. And now Hashem is the first time the Torah says that it's going to be tested. The Zohar says that Satan told Hashem, Avraham is not going to keep with you. You can test him. Ask him to do what he teaches now for 137 years. Not to sacrifice children like the Goyim do, not to spill blood. Tell him to go and sacrifice his own son. Let's see what happened. Those are devarim. Va'Elohim nisa et Avraham. This is the first time it's called a test. And he asked Abraham, he says, I want you to take your son, Yitzchak, and sacrifice him. Now, this moment in time, Abraham is 137 years old. Sarah is 127 years old. And Yitzchak is 37 years old. All of them has 7 in their name. And in their age, I'm sorry. And this is the Holy Kedusha. Ve'ita ach sameach ach. Aleph and Chaf is 21. The most divine moment. They all agree for this so-called Akedah. We'll know that even Sarah agreed in a moment. Avraham is taking his son, and as we know, Vayashkem Avraham baboker. So you know, Vayashkem Avraham baboker, as we know, remember, Avraham was a very powerful, rich man, had slaves and servants, but he's not letting anybody by himself get this journey on its way. He actually take what we call Chamor, this Vayachvosh et Chamoro, the Zohar says that's when he completely defeated the evil inclination in the world. And this Chamor will become the Chamor of the Mashiach. Right? You know, the prophet says that the donkey of the Mashiach will come, the Mashiach on the donkey, but it's really not what it means. There is a meaning as far as the donkey. The Gemara says that it's actually will be a donkey that has 100 shades of white. Amazing. It's really the Oreganus. And of course, Avraham now is taking this donkey to fulfill the biggest mitzvah and test that Hashem says, to sacrifice your only son, the son that you love, Yitzchak. And Yitzchak completely not even arguing with his father. Remember, he's 37 years old. He could easily say, what are you doing? Are you crazy? Leave me alone. I don't hear Hashem. I just hear you. But he completely, that's why it's called Akedat Yitzchak. Meaning that HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to Abraham, go do this amazing thing. And it's Abraham, he does it with such love that he even prepared his own wood. Vayivaka atze olah. Abraham Avinu was given a task to sacrifice Yitzchak as a olah. You know, olah is one sacrifice that everything burns. You don't give anything, you burn the whole thing. You don't give, because any korban, the korbanot, you have korbanot that you give portion to the priest, to the Kohen, to the Levites, to Israel, some for you to eat, all kinds of things. But this one, Hashem says, Akrivehu le'olah, ve'aleu sham le'olah, al echad ha'arim. So we know that Avraham Avinu is going with his two so-called youngsters, na'arim, teenager, but it's really not na'arim. The two of them is none other than Eliezer, his servant that was older than Abraham, and he was the son of Nimrod, by the way, and the son of Hagar, Ishmael, was 50 years old. And Vayikach Avraham, and he asking, Vayomer Avraham el Na'arav, Shevu lachem po im hachamor. The Zohar says that he sees Hamakom, he sees Yerushalayim, he sees Bet HaMikdash, where the whole world started from that point. And he asked the two Na'arim, he asked them, do you see that? And they said, no. He said, okay, sit here with the donkey. You're just as dumb as a donkey. Chamor is meruach, right? Even the Chamor of Abraham has the Ruach HaKodesh. And they didn't. But we know that Eliezer was such a righteous, but at this moment, Hashem does not reveal to the Goyim, no matter how righteous they are, everything. We know Eliezer was one of the 10 tzaddikim that went to the heaven alive, like Eliyahu Navi, like Serach Bat Asher. But he could not see this amazing sight. And Avraham Avinu is taking his son, and of course he's taking the fire and the knife, and vayilchu shnehem yachdav, meaning they both are in full agreement to do this. And as we know, vayomer Yitzchak el Avraham avi, vayomer hineni, hineni meaning that I'm ready for everything. Just like Yitzchak is saying, vayomer hinei ish v'atzim v'hayeh haseh le'olah. First and foremost, what Yitzchak saying? Hayeh haseh le'olah. He says, what do you mean? Where is the offering, the lamb that you're going to offer? First and foremost, Hashem never were clear on what kind of sacrifice will be. He doesn't say, he says just akreveh aleu le'olah. It doesn't say what kind, an ox, or is a lamb, is a sheep, what's going on here? But what the Zohar says, Yitzchak says, Hayeh haseh. Haseh in Gematria is 310. And we know to the righteous people, the Gemara says, Hashem gives 310 worlds in Olam Haba. Olam Haba, by the way, is not heaven. It's two different times and places. Olam Haba is the next world on earth, meaning there'll be a world without any Yetzer Hara. There'll be many worlds to it that tzaddikim can travel in between. It's very hard to understand. The Zohar brings that really when Avraham put Yitzchak on the ark, on the Mizbeach, on the altar, Yitzchak really died and went to the heaven for 3 years to see all those 310 worlds. And Agmara says that there is tzaddikim has 310 worlds. And we know that when Avraham was about to, when he was just raising the knife, it was told to Sarah by Satan that Avraham is about to kill Yitzchak. And Sarah is in Beersheba. And she doesn't go to Yerushalayim. She goes to Me'arat HaMachpelah. Vatischak leyom acharon. On her last day, she laughed because she realized that Avraham and Yitzchak passed the test. And as we know, when Avraham Avinu raised their hand, Hashem says to him, Vayikra elav malach Adonai min hashamayim, vayomer Avraham, Avraham, meaning he blessed him in the world here and the world to come. Avraham says, Hineni. We know that Yitzchak says to his father, time me good, so you don't make chaz v'chalila and avera and the shchita. And when Abraham rose with his hand to slaughter Yitzchak, the Zohar says that Yitzchak passed away from fear. That's why we say on Slichot, Ufachad Yitzchak, the fear of Yitzchak. And as we know, the Zohar Kadosh says that Avraham Avinu, by this defined moment, is really teaching us about Kiddush Hashem. And sometimes we have to sanctify Hashem with our lives. And Yitzchak was willing to do that. And Avraham was blessed in this world and the world to come. By the way, also Yitzchak, as we know, he came back. His neshama, the Zohar says it was neshama v'nukba, nekeva. And when Hashem brought him up, le'olah, he went up and he got the neshama of Gavra. And of course, we know that the angel says to Abraham, and Hashem says to Abraham, Ata yadati ki yireh Elohim ata. Says, what do you mean? Now I know that you fear of Hashem and respect because you did not save your son from me. And all of a sudden, really in essence, Abraham is what we call the beginning of Judaism. It's the beginning of the Hebrews. Av, Ram, right? The father of many, with Hey, the letter of Hashem in it. And he's the one that defines what really Hebrew means. There is times where we're challenged. All the 10 tests that Abraham went through, we go through them in our lives. But we have to understand that there is all good. And when Hashem says to him, don't do it, Abraham says, because it says here, Omer, Al tishlach yadcha el hanar ve'al ta'as lo me'umah. Abraham says, I came all the way here. Yitzchak is all the way here. He wants to be sacrificed. Let me at least do a scar. Mum. Hashem says, no, not even a mum. Mum in Gematria is 86. Really, Abraham wanted to mark Yitzchak with the letters of Hashem. And Hashem says, no. Al ta'as lo me'umah. Yitzchak, as we know, is the only one that never left the land of Israel. Abraham came from Ur Kasdim, went to Egypt. Yaakov was born in Israel, went to both Haran and Egypt. Yitzchak never. And from him, really, will come a lot of blessing to the people of Israel. And Hashem says, Abraham says, okay, so we did all this, but now you ask me to do a sacrifice. Hashem says to him, really what I ask you is to sacrifice Olah, meaning to bring your son to the highest level. And Abraham says, how we in the future can atone? I know the children, my children, they will have Yetzer Hara, they will sin, you'll be upset. What can we do? Hashem revealed to him that there is sacrifice. There is thing that's called Korban. And we can atone for our sin through the sacrifice in the Mishkan, the tabernacle, Bet HaMikdash. And VaYarah, V'inei Ayil Achar Nechaz Basvach. Abraham sees an ayil. Ayil, by the way, is a kind of a deer. Remember, it's not a lamb like Yitzchak thought or said. It's a deer. But the Torah says that this one is achar svach, is after the word svach. So, if we take the word svach, if you look after the letters that come after those 3 letters, after samech come ayin, after bet come gimel, and after chaf come lamed, it spells the word egel. Avraham Avinu was able to do this korban to atone for the sin of the golden calf. That's why when Moshe Rabbeinu was arguing with Hashem after the golden calf, Hashem forgive him. He says, Salachti kidvarecha. We said that on Yom Kippur. I forgive you because of what you said. Moshe said, this is what Abraham did. You already atoned for us. Hence, huneshalma parim sfatenu. Today we don't have Bet HaMikdash. We cannot do sacrifice. we can learn about sacrifice and read the Akedah, and we can be saved from anything. The Zohar Kadosh says, whoever study about the Korbanot is like he sacrificed them. And whoever read the Akedah in times of needs, really every day, we should read the Akedah, Hashem saves them. B'schut Yitzchak. And we know here the finish, and I'll finish that. Thank you for staying with us a little longer. As we know, unfortunately, Facebook is not keen on supporting Israel, especially TORAH and people that support Trump. They cut us off all the time, and they reduce our distribution. We used to reach 700-800 people, 500 a class. Now they blocked us all over. We're getting literally 100, maybe sometimes 50. It's crazy. But it's okay. It's all from Hashem. It's all good. I want you to please do me a favor and distribute this class to your groups and friends so we can spread the word of Torah and Hashem, and you'll be all part of this amazing thing. I want to finish with something amazing. The Zohar Kadosh says, if you read the last portion of this parasha, Maftir, which is basically, ויהי אחר הדברים האלה, ויוגד לאברהם, לאמור כי הנה ילדה מילכה, גם היא, בנים לנחור אחיך. So we know it's really, there is a whole thing here of shulsholet, of lineage of his brother. And of course, we come to all the way, we want here to see that HaKadosh Baruch Hu introduced to us ריבקה, meaning even among all these wicked people, there is a one righteous girl named ריבקה. And her father is Lavan, as we know. Her brother is Lavan, and her father is Betuel. Most horrific person. Betuel has the word Betula in it. He used to rape, just like Saddam Hussein, virgin women on their wedding night. Hashem killed him, by the way, as soon as Eliezer showed up. But from among all this, Shoshana ben Achochim, even among all evil, you can find good. So Be'ezat Hashem, I know we're going through a lot of chaos today in the world. Those are days of Mashiach. It's very interesting. There's two candidates for the left today named Kamala, right? And Joe Biden. Kamala, if you write in Hebrew, is Amalek. And what's Biden? Is Bo Din, right? There is a judgment. And if you look at the Hebrew writing, if you write their names, their last name is what we call Biden and Harris. Harris Beyadan, destruction in their hands. And Joe is Go, meaning Gog Magog. And they do everything to go against Israel. I urge all the Jewish American people, last time you voted for Obama, which is Galmut Satan. 72% American Jews voted for Obama. The second one, 69%. These people, they know nothing but to destroy Israel. Today, thanks to the Jewish people that voted in America, we have Iran on our borders, in Lebanon, in Syria, in Gaza. It's because the Jewish people in America are stupid to vote for somebody that goes against Israel. That's where Yaakov Avinu says, Hatzileni na miyad achi miyad Esav. Save me from my own brothers that behave like Esav. Remember, we brought the Holocaust upon us. We brought the destruction of the Greeks, Antiochus, upon us. We brought socialism. We were all Jews. Marxism, all Jews. Now we have today Jews in the government that go against Israel. I'm not a politician and I don't really have an opinion, but I know that we, all of us, the Jewish people, must support Israel, regardless of our own belief and whatever the case may be. If you see that there is a person in charge, Donald Trump in Gematria is 424, which is Mashiach ben David. He's not the Mashiach, but he's preparing the days of Mashiach. And what he does, he restores Israel to the highest level. And he always used the word God. So I call upon you, today is the election. Pa'amayim Kitov is Tuesday. Make it twice as good. Another 4 years. To the person that cares about Israel more than anybody else in the world. More than Israel cares about Israel. So Be'ezat Hashem, I want to thank you again for being with us and for watching and promoting and sharing this class. Have a wonderful rest of the week. Thank you so much. God bless you all. God bless America and Israel. And peace.